So it appears that West Ham United are about to sign young Brazilian centre-back Luizao, although, as we understand it, Wolves are looking to make a late bid. There's so many rumours surrounding this, and I'm not really entirely sure why. Maybe it's because it's the only sort of bona fide deal that's going on before the transfer window, so everybody wants to write about it. But I do believe a lot more is being made of this player than is actually the truth. He's out of contract. I don't entirely know why, but I'm guessing the contracts run slightly differently over in South America, whereas they don't sort of run end in June like they do in Europe. However, he's played 19 times for Sao Paulo. He's incredibly inexperienced, which I guess is a reason to not sign him. But one thing I think West Ham have been very bad at doing over the years is recruiting people before they became famous, basically. It's actually a well-trodden path that particularly Brazilian players, they'll start to shine in that league. Then they'll go over to Portugal. The reason why is obvious. They speak the same language, basically. They basically get fattened up by the Portuguese teams. Then another European giant will come and buy them from Portugal. But the time to get them is, I guess, when they're in Brazil. So from that aspect, it's a really good and a clever thing to do. Actually, the Russian clubs, before they all got sanctioned, the Russian clubs have been doing it for years as well. Picking up young talent from Brazil, nurturing it, and then selling it on for big money. From that point of view, it's a good plan. We also understand that relatively recently, Rob Newman has gone over to Brazil to help set up a scouting network, a way that he can get, I guess, just a network of scouts to visit not just the big games with, Flamengo, Corinthians, Sao Paulo, but actually a lot of the games where it's the next level down, a lot of the youth games in Brazil. Now, I've looked at a lot of the footage that I can, all the footage that I can of Luizao, and a lot of it comes from, I guess, those sort of games. There's a lot of footage there, sort of empty stadiums. It looks like it might be, like the B team or the youth team or something like that. It's a massive league over in Brazil. They absolutely pack the stadiums out. You all know this. Brazilians are absolutely fanatical about their football. So a lot of the footage I've seen, I don't think is from the top level. Now, this rumour has coincided with another rumour that's come out, which is basically saying that David Moyes is not going to use him. David Moyes is not going to use Luizao this season, which I find that to be quite strange. I find it weird that he would nail his colours to the mast like that, particularly bearing in mind the centre-back crisis that we have going on at the moment. And let's be fair, even today we know far less than yesterday, bearing in mind what's just happened with Naif Agurd, or Nathan Agurd, as Moisey likes to call him. We don't think that Zuma is going to be back until mid-January at the earliest, or so I've heard anyway. Dawson's off form. Ogbonna doesn't look like he's quite up to the pace of the Premier League. So I just find it weird that if you're going to bring a young player in from Brazil, I certainly wouldn't immediately say there's no way he's going to be playing. Now, from what I've seen of the player, look, I'm not going to lie. It's not like I've looked at it and thought, oh, well, he's going to set the world alight. It's very, very hard to judge. As I say, some of it looks like it's from some top-level games in Brazil. Some of it, they almost look like training games. You see a bit of everything from him. He's a central defender. He's left-footed. Sometimes he looks like he moves his feet relatively quickly. I mean, there's a big lump, right? Relatively quickly. Sometimes he looks a bit clumsy. I didn't watch it and think, wow, there's an amazing player. And that's something that you get when you watch YouTube videos, right? That's just the very nature of a YouTube video, isn't it? You're going to pick someone's best bits. And I'm quite sure, given another couple of years, I mean, you're going to get a lot more best bits to put together in a video, but you've got almost nothing to work for. He's only played 19 games. Now, I'm not saying that he's rubbish. Far from it. And it may well be that David Moyes is right. Actually, he's not ready yet. And from what I saw, I'd probably suggest he isn't. But if we do have no centre-backs, it might well be a consideration. That being said, we've got Ben Johnson who can play at centre-back. I prefer to see Thilo Kehrer at centre-back. Maybe that will be enough. Declan Rice can play there. Maybe that will be enough to see us through up until the point where Zuma comes back or Agurd comes back from injury. It's absolutely fine. But I do remember us signing Alves from Silkeborg. I think we paid a little bit for him, paid about $3.5 million or something like that. Didn't quite work out, did it? Before I go any further, this video is sponsored by the OneFootball app, which you can download by clicking the link underneath this screen. The OneFootball app is a brilliant way to keep track of West Ham. In fact, you can keep track of all of football. It's a generic football app. You've got World Cup stuff on there. You've got Premier League stuff on there. You've got all the European competitions, all the Championship stuff. But if what you want to do is just tailor that app for your specifications to only give you West Ham news, you can do that. You instruct it to do exactly that, and it will go around the internet picking all the West Ham stories, all the newspapers picking all the West Ham stories, and deliver them straight to your phone, which is exactly where I'm reading the news from at the moment. Please use the link below. They'll know you've come from Hammer's Chat. So I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that we signed Luizao. Look, I spoke about him. I did a video about a month ago on him. This has been the worst kept secret for quite some time. I did mention that it might be a David Sullivan sign. It might be a bit of a Wellington Paulista. I don't know. Don't forget Sullivan did try to sign Gabigol last season on behalf of David Moyes. And if David Sullivan was at all feeling empowered about signing players, I would imagine, just taking a quick look at how long it's taken some of Moyes' summer signings to settle, he may feel slightly more empowered to think, do you know what? I might go out there, and what I might do is just go and try and sign a player. Moyes can't say anything. It's not like he's working out. Anyway, one thing we do know, though, if Sullivan does that, Moyes isn't going to play them anyway. The thing that makes this slightly different is maybe, just maybe, because Rob Newman's over and he's setting up a scouting network in Brazil, maybe this is one of his, so it might not be that. I might be putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with 5, but it sort of makes sense. However, one thing I would say, when I've seen a lot of these stories, and I've seen, when I typed his name into, I put Luizao Sao Paulo. If you do that and put it into Google, one of the first videos that comes up is Luizao world class footballer? He's not. All right, he's not that yet. He's a young, inexperienced player. One of them was saying that West Ham have managed to beat off Juventus and Real. It's funny, Juventus, Real Madrid, and Fulham. Those famous ones. Basically, everyone's got a bit of white in their kit. We managed to beat. As far as I didn't chuck Leeds in there and Swansea as well. I don't think. I'm not entirely sure this particular player, all those top-level clubs and Paris Saint-Germain were all beating a path to his door. Made him sound a bit crap. He looks okay. He really does. But I wouldn't be expecting anything big from this at all. I wouldn't be expecting him to come in and save us from our central defensive crisis. Far from it. But you know what? Maybe, just maybe, if we get a player like this in, I know it goes against what David Moyes has said, but I think what happened with Elise, Baptiste and a few of those, I know Baptiste is still at the club. Bearing in mind last season we were down to the point where everyone was injured. Even Diop came in, he got injured. We had one fit centre-back in Craig Dawson. He was unfit. He had a broken nose and a dicky ankle. I said better than a dicky, I guess. But even at that point, David Moyes still wouldn't play Elise, still wouldn't play Baptiste. So I guess if this is his choice and it is Newman's choice, then maybe, just maybe, we'll have a player there who he's more inclined to use. I don't know. I'd only make this video. Well, obviously we're about to sign a player, so it's a West Ham channel. Why wouldn't I? But just to really tempt up expectations on him, I don't think this is. I don't think this is the saviour. I don't think he's the Messiah. Also, I don't think he's a naughty boy. But I'm just saying, from what I've seen, we're signing a very, very young, inexperienced player. I couldn't attest to whether he speaks English well or not. It's going to be a hell of a thing for a young 20-year-old from Brazil to come over here and try and settle anyway. At least if he does so, he's got a Brazilian mentor in Lucas Paqueta, who I hope and I think will be back in training as of next week. So that'll at least give us something to look forward to.